All right. Hi. Pamela.
Yes.
Welcome to the Women in Food and Packaging. Thank you for doing this, and we're really excited to have you here. So please tell us about yourself. From um, where you're from, where you are, your position, your company.
Um, well, I'm a food technologist, and I'm originally from Texas. And of course, I've had a long career. I've worked for a number of companies, including Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, Frito-Lay. And most recently, I was working for Universal Robina Corporation in the Philippines. And I've been in the Philippines now for 26 years. That time working with Universal Robina Corporation. I have recently retired from URC, and I am now independent consultant.
Wow, you've uh, by my calculation, you must have been in this business for more than 35, 40 years.
Yes, that's what happens when you get old.
Well, that's where you gain the experience. So you originally from Texas.
Yes,
You used to work for Coca-Cola and PepsiCo over there,
yes,
right? So how did you find transitioning from is it Dallas or
yes. I lived in the Dallas area. Um, I worked for Frito Lay and the PepsiCo International Group of Frito Lay, which at that time was called PepsiCo Foods International, for the two together about 10 years. And during that time, I spent most of my time on the road. So I traveled all to many countries. I worked in Mexico, Puerto Rico, in Asia. I spent a lot of time in Korea and Thailand. And I guess when I decided to make this move to the Philippines, it really wasn't that big a stretch for me. And so I actually have always felt quite at home here. I can't really say that it was uh, a hard transition at all.
so you're accustomed to, let's say, international travels and international scenes for in this case. So let's get to the point. Um, Being in it is my views anyway. Being in um, Texas, it's a heavy on the male side. Being the society that sometimes that we see today, and we've come a long way in terms of gender equality and women rights. How did you, being a food technologist, how did you find yourself and being and growing from where you were in the beginning?
This is an interesting question. And I guess from the very beginning, I always really looked at this as myself as a person doing the job, not necessarily myself as a woman doing the job or my coworker as a man doing the job. I mean, we're both people. We do the job. So I guess I never really focused on it. And since it maybe, more or less, I was there to do the job, and it didn't really matter to me whether, you know, that part of it, gender was not necessarily the what kept me from doing the job or helped me do the job. I'm not saying that uh, I ignored it completely, but I also think that it wasn't necessarily part of that wasn't like, oh, always thinking myself as a woman first and then as the role that I was in. I really thought of myself as a person in that role.
So you coming from yourself being represented as a person and your unique quality that able to put you equal with anyone and would would um would the company's policy or company culture play a big part in that?
Yes, I think it does, and obviously your immediate peers and your supervisors and subordinates, all will factor into that. But I think if you put out basically yourself and what you're capable of, I think people appreciate that. And if you also look at people in that way, don't constrain them by their gender or how they look, or even, let's say, a particular habits, but what they contribute to the job or to the role that they're doing, and the value that they can bring into the area that you're working, what they can bring to the project or to the work in general.
Right, right. That's a great point, because myself, like out of the whole career that I have, majority of my supervisors and my direct bosses are women. And I don't find, and I have not found, and actually sometimes I do find um, women being somewhat superior of the leader, because of the sensitive touch and understanding of the broader range, instead of sometimes men, if men do not have that feminine touch, they become stiff. We become stiff. We become robots in some cases. That may work in some industries, but it doesn't always work in the business that we're in, which is we're in, even though we're in FMCG, we're in products business, we're still in people business. So tell us, what's the most exciting thing that you've done in your career?
Oh, now that, let me have to think about that. I don't know that I can say that one moment stands out more than the others, but obviously some of the opportunities that I've had to with product launches, or with starting up new processing lines within, things that I were doing would rank up there. I can't necessarily single out a particular one though.
So it would say initiatives in
Yes.
products, in the better way of doing things,
Hmm.
the same way that Elon Musk is doing, probably.
Yes.
I read somewhere, I believe it's your profile, that something about problems and solutions.
Well, um, I actually love a good problem, and I am good at finding solutions. And I think I have a very intuitive nature. And so you can take to look at a problem and to break it down and to really find solutions for problems. So it is one of the things I do enjoy.
Okay, I have a maybe sensitive question to you. How do you find the solution to the environmental problem from single-use plastics or single-use packaging that we see today?
You know, yes, it is a sensitive question. Uh, the strides that have been made in the last few years on alternatives are really impressive, especially some of these organic based packagings. Now, the question is, can they be used for all products? That's where we have to make that next step. But I agree with you, single use plastics are definitely an issue that we have to deal with. And of course, from the food science standpoint, we want to be sure that a product is properly protected and that consumers will always get a safe product. So there is a gap here, but there also is a lot of low hanging fruit, which we see now that is starting to change. To get rid of the use of straws, to eliminate simple plastic bags. I think that is will make a definite impact, and that we can definitely build upon that. Can we get to the point where all your supermarket items are not in single-use plastic? This is going to be, it's a difficult problem and it is a challenge, but I am very impressed with some of the things that they're doing with mycology in this area, with uh, biophenols, and with other products that are coming on the market that are quite interesting.
Yeah, so I can only give you some examples from Thailand perspective. So we banned plastic bags in grocery stores. I believe it was 2 years ago, beginning of 2 years ago, and some stores actually do still offer it if you ask for it.
Mhm.
Some stores currently some stores will charge you, let's say, a couple of cents for the bag. But then there's this eco-friendly, the whether it's cloth, whether it's synthetic materials, or whether it's paper that you can buy. Of course, they can be reused.
Yes.
There, I had this discussion with association in Thailand, an association head that's responsible for environmental and recycling. Um, sometimes the cost of those reusable or alternative packaging materials, in this case, the shopping bags, may even be detrimental to environmental in the beginning, but
Hmm.
as well as in the long term. Like myself, I believe I have 10 IKEA bags because I always forget to bring them to the store.
Yes.
So uh, now, of course, that we have to set a goal, and that's one side, but also regulation is another side. From Thailand uh, and from the EU perspective, there are um, enforcing the ban on single-use plastic from July this year
Hmm.
on certain types of single-use plastics. And people are scrambling to find solutions or to find alternative at you know at a lower impact of the cost from the producer side. Right. So what did you involve in being background in food technologies? Did you involve in the product development, packaging designs, packaging material selection, packaging materials innovation? What were you involved in as a career?
Well, as I said, I've had a long career. Uh, I've probably been mostly involved in the product formulation, product development, product processing. Um, and I do have some, let's say, I've had a lot of experience with food regulations and a lot of the peripherals. Packaging itself, I usually had worked with a team who did the packaging development, but I'm very familiar with packaging, and that basically was under my management. So I would say that I have quite a bit of experience with packaging, although we do employ packaging engineers for a lot of that work.
So you're looking at the whole product, one product as the whole project, and then you go through the raw materials, the processing,
Yes.
ingredients, and the regulations, materials, design, whether it's going to be for logistics or for the shelf, those kind of things.
Yes. So I'm more of a product process food safety expert than I am a packaging expert.
Oh, okay. So what is the latest trend on the food
Uh,
safety?
with COVID and the experience that we're all going through, we've changed our patterns, we've changed how we buy, we changed how we consume, and is a more or less in general. There are some trends that they're really talking about now, and they break down into a couple of areas. There are trends where people still want to be excited about something new, but there's also a big comfort. This is what I know. This is what makes me feel good trend. And then the that general trend of of exploring ethnicity and other types of cuisine, broadening your palate. Those are some of the, you can go to some of the gurus of this, Mintel and Innova, and they break it down into a number of categories. But these are general trends that we see.
So you're talking about like comfort food, taste, from snacks perspective in this case,
Mhm.
or new packaging design for those
Mhm.
original
Mhm.
flavors, but as well as like new flavors. I see new flavors all the time in department stores, coming from so many producers, and the same thing that I see is different packaging, but it's the same product.
In some cases, you do see that. They uh, this would be particularly the marketing, from the marketing aspect. You're When they're looking at how to position and market the product, they want to freshen up the image. So sometimes the packaging gets a makeover to remind customers that it's there and that they should try it again or continue to purchase it. It's like all of us, we all need a makeover once in a while.
Yes, yes, actually, that's true. That's true. So, I had the pleasure of speaking with many MNC manufacturer on a large scale, it's international, and the theme seems to be on the same on the same side, where manufacturers position, in this case MNC, position themselves as the demand creator. But that's coming from focus groups, research, data, analytics, and it goes into testing, focus groups, so many things that goes on into the life cycle of one product, but as well as how companies queue products and how companies actually deliberately queue products to make it to make that particular product a limited edition, and then the planning to have new, different products, different taste, different scent, different tactility, line up 30, 40, 50 SKUs within a year. It's a never-ending cycle for the manufacturers. And and now because we're looking at Thailand, the majority of numbers of business in Thailand is SMEs, 60%, 66%. But of course, that 30% belongs to the more than 30% belongs to the big brands. So, what is your view on how SMEs is able to survive and thrive in the market?
You know, and I'm going to speak more or less. This is really my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for anyone. But I really truly believe that we are all creatures of habit,
Mm,
and but it's been shown that you can actually change your habit at any moment. You don't necessarily have to repeat to change your habit. If you do it this way, and then all of a sudden one day you do it differently, the day after you will continue to do it differently. We tend to follow those kind of patterns, and that's very true of how we buy consumer goods. And of course, the big companies really do consumer research. They look at how consumers do things. And part of that is to attract consumers away from their habit, to
mm,
get you to try their new product as opposed to buying the one that you normally buy.
mm,
Because if all things being equal, you will still buy the one you normally buy.
mm,
And so that's actually a big challenge for marketing people, to really get you to look at me. Don't look at them, look at me. um, and what I found is that consumers are not only creatures of habit, they tend to be kind of loyal to their habits. And the the way consumers break those habits most of the time is because you failed them. If you fail them, then they will look at over there where, you know, the other guy is jumping up and down saying, look at me, look at me. And once you buy the other guy, you may not come back. Right? And how do you fail? How do you fail? You fail by not having good quality. You fail by inconsistency. I think that's a big one. You know, if it can still be good, but it's not what you expect, then it opens you up to looking at something else, right? Maybe next time I won't buy. And the other one, of course, is not being there. If you're not where they go to buy, and you know you're their habit, you're the one they normally buy, you walk in, they get you, they leave. If you're not there, then they're not going to go all over town looking for you. They will buy the next one that's on the shelf because they made the effort to go there to buy it. And so I think that's a big part of it. And SMEs have the disadvantage of they're not as widely distributed. So they can't always be where people expect them to be. But if they are in a certain channel, a selling channel, they need to have a good presence in the channel they sell in. Maybe they don't sell in all channels, but if they're there one time, they need to be there the next time, because I think that also builds on that habit of people buying them. And then obviously they have to have a reason that they can draw customers to them. And maybe it's not big advertising, but there needs to be a compelling reason why people would choose them over their normal habit, to take away from that. And that's where the interesting flavor might come in, or the attractive packaging, or that they look cleaner, better, more safe. You know, those things come into play.
Speaking of, I'm just going to drill on a couple of points that you raised there. How do you find, or from your experience, do you find packaging designs being a very crucial buying decision for consumer?
You know, packaging design, I think, also may lead a little bit into price point. If it's an expensive product, I expect a very nice package. Right. As it becomes let's say that lower price product, maybe that differentiation, there's more forgiving of the consumer. Let's say it's something that sells for only a few baht. They may not be as critical of packaging. But regardless, the fact that the packaging displays the product in a way that consumers want to see it, which means that, you know, if it's a product where the consumer feels there needs to be a window so that they can kind of inspect what it is before they buy it on the shelf. Although from a technical standpoint, we don't like windows because the product is less protected. But if it's something where the consumer feels they need to see it, then if you don't allow the consumer to see it, then you put yourself at a disadvantage. There are little things like that, I would say. But, you know, obviously everybody, you know, we all like eye candy. We all like to see pretty things. So we like to see an attractive package.
It's a completely, like, there's no perfect recipe for the whole population.
Well, no, because let's say it's such a big question. If we said we're only going to talk about three baht cookies or 3 baht candies or something like that, then maybe you could be more specific about what works and what doesn't work. But we're talking about packaging. We're talking about everything. You know, it covers the wide range, including beverages and bottles. You know, and how much, you know, consumers like to look at beverages in clear glass, particularly like, say, juices, because they want to see the color of the juice. They want to see,
See the pulp.
the pulp. They want to see those things. And if you put it in a, a solid colored bottle and they can't see that, does that restrict them from choosing you over the guy that they can inspect it before they make their purchase?
It's yeah, it's like I mentioned, there's no perfect recipe, and it's a complete balancing act between the product itself, the product differentiation. Do we stick with the habit, create something similar to what the market is already buying, or create something that's completely out of this world and attract the niche type of product, create a new habit, and also to your point, coming to the exposure, the shelf life position, for example, or the promotional counter at the cashier, for example. Like there's so many things that anyone, like especially SME, do not have. Like they have to do a lot of research on. And fortunately, for Thailand, we do have organizations who help those producers from the governmental side and from the association sides. And I believe that in Philippines, you do have those associations as well, from DTI, for
Yes.
example. So it's helping and in this case distributing the for, for the lack of better word, the wealth, but also providing the consumer with something different, variety. If using myself as example, there are some products that I would just buy just one SKU, Coca-Cola.
Mm.
No, I don't go Diet Coke. I don't go no sugar. Maybe I do stevia Coca-Cola, but there's only one type of Coca-Cola in the small plastic bottle that I would buy because I had bad experience with other taste. I had a bad experience in terms of fizziness from the cans, and I had a bad experience with both fizziness and the taste from the larger types of bottle. Well, I mean, glass bottle is always
Hmm.
nice, but it's kind of hard to find glass bottles, and it's a bit of a hassle actually for myself as a consumer to as post packaging, post consumer packaging to take care of those. And on the other side, if you're talking about like fruits, right? If I go to department store, supermarket, I always buy something new.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or snacks. Snacks. I love Lay's, I can say. I love Lay's classic yellow packaging. But on the healthy side, I always go for the nuts, go for the almonds, go for the cashews. So it's like for each and every person and each every product type, every snack types, there's a habit in there, and I can only speak for myself that I'm not sure if you consider this weird, but I would think that there's a lot of people out there who think and being the same as I am.
True.
Yes, you're currently retired from URC.
Yes.
What are you up to nowadays?
Well, it's only been a few months, but I'm starting to do some consulting and some things like this. I'm working with a few small groups.
Okay, anything exciting do you have on the line?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment, or not that I can talk about.
Of course, of course. I tried. I tried. Okay, so being from where you are and where you've and what you've done in the I would say at the highest level of the F&B business, FMCG, in fact. Um, how did you find yourself managing your time of the day within 24 hours?
Well, um, I think I do okay with work-life balance. I'm family is first, but to balance, I spend a lot of time on, or when I'm working, I spend a lot of time on work, but I also have my own stress relievers and little hobbies that I like to do to break, if I need a break or I want to get my mind out of something and refocus. So um, I think on this are things that help me help anyone get their balance their day, balance their 24 hours. And I do try to get a good sleep cycle, because
Mm.
that's very important for all of us. But I have I have little hobbies. I, of course, like to read. Um, the last few years, I've gotten very interested in family histories. So I like doing research in that area when I have the time. And the usual little bit of arts and craft or artistic thing, just so you have something you can work with your hands or that. And I do like cooking. I do like to cook, although I'll be honest, I don't get time to cook as often because someone else is usually doing the cooking. So, I, but it is something I enjoy.
Yes, that's a pleasure of doing something with your hands, putting things together, Legos or any hobbies that involve you using your senses, your touching senses, and to your point there, sleep as a weapon.
Hmm.
I think that's a very important part. I mean, normal human beings at least, for the most of us, that we do need good deep sleep, good REM cycles, consistent in order to function to the fullest for the whole day, I believe. So, what are your hobbies besides arts, crafts? Oh, actually, I want to ask you.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about the family history. Have you done
Yes.
the 23andMe?
Oh, I've done them all.
Did you find something new?
Yes, I did 23andMe, I did Ancestry, I did Family DNA.
Okay, okay. Did you find
And
anything interesting there?
well, there are interesting things, about your ancestry, or let's say some of your genetic markers, which I don't think we need to talk about in general, but uh, the but family history wise, and also each of those databases have different people in them. So I found, just thousands of fourth and fifth cousins or whatever. There's, because I guess a fifth cousin means you somehow share one of your 128 grandparents.
Mm,
That, as you go up, so I mean, there are literally thousands of them.
wow. So,
But for the U.S. They're able to show you, like, say, migration patterns of, coming from Europe and the trail of common ancestor migration across the U.S. So it is an interesting thing to look at.
so you mentioned you've done multiple of them. If I had to do one, if I were to do one, which one would you recommend?
It depends on what your purpose is.
Mm,
If you're really looking for one to talk about your health, to see whether you carry variants and genetic uh, for all these genetic diseases or genetic um characteristics, then it's 23andMe. If you want one that will really give you a deep dive on the DNA, particularly your Y DNA or your mitochondrial DNA, then family DNA is good for that, because I think I my for the Y DNA for my brother, we went 700 SNPs. So I mean, they really give you very detailed
wow.
markers there, Um, for the ones where you're wanting just to find your relatives and build your family tree and look at history, then Ancestry is good, is a good one. My Heritage is also okay. Some of the ones that are somewhat country specific, I think there's one here that focuses on Asia. Is it My Circle? And there's some that focus in certain parts of Europe where they have, let's say, deeper records going back. If you're, and I'm not necessarily participating in those, but I have canvassed them. There are quite a few out there. So it kind of depends on whether it's health related or it's really you want to understand DNA, or if you want to find your relatives and build a family tree, So depending on what you're looking for, it kind of divides them out.
Thank you, thank you. I've been looking. I actually almost made the order to 23andMe, and just to find out what's going on
Yeah.
inside of me. So thank you for the advice, and 23andMe seems to be fitting. So you mentioned cooking.
Yes.
Being a food technologist, what do you cook?
Oh, I like baking, but in general, I cook all the same things that most other people would cook. I mean, for meat dishes, vegetable dishes. Um, the and I guess being from Texas, I tend to have those typical south southern or southwest Texas comfort foods
Hmm.
that I like. I I'm I qualify as a flexitarian, so I eat a lot of vegetables. Flexitarian is somebody who focuses on a plant-based diet, but will still eat um, red meat, fish, and that, but in moderation. So um, I guess like that. I don't know that my cooking is any different than anyone else's, other than maybe it's a little more dissected.
That's what I wanted to get to. Do you find yourself using your habit from work, looking at each ingredient and how it combined together to make an end product that you would like, or to end product that you imagine that, or how you think it would be different? Do you find yourself doing that?
Yes, I definitely do, and because of that, I tend to not follow the same recipe because I'm always tweaking and changing things. Um, so it makes it a little interesting sometimes, but in general, it works. And then the flip side of that is that oh, you can't go anywhere and eat anybody else's food, restaurant or otherwise, without
Yeah.
also dissecting it.
It's that's the beauty of home cooked meal, right?
Yeah.
You're doing the things that you want, and presenting to the people that you'd like to share with, that this is your take on it. So, do you have any killer Southern recipe? Do you
Well,
like ribs or
ribs. My part of the country is focused more on brisket.
mm,
So yeah, I know how to barbecue a good brisket. Um, Chicken
I
fried
can
steak
sense
is a
that.
favorite from there, and because I'm from South Texas, we have a very heavy influence of Spanish and Mexican and those heritages. So a lot of things that lean in that direction. I enchiladas and tacos and um, the those typical uh, dishes you would see in a Mexican restaurant, but maybe there's a
Tex
little bit different. Let's say my different areas they tend to be a little bit different.
Tex-Mex kind of deal.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, like kind of astada,
yes.
kind of, oh, I miss those kind of
Yeah,
standards.
yeah, that's comfort food for me.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
I can never find a good kind of style in Bangkok. There's several good Mexican here, but not as good as the ones in well, available easily anywhere in the US.
Hmm.
Okay, so um, we like what I found out about you today is you focus about things that are in front of you, but never abandon things that of your heritage, whether from where you are, family, and also evolving with where you are, but also with the family always there being the focus of your life. So, would you like to provide some word of advice to? I would like to categorize into several categories. Word of advice for anyone who's starting out their career, or anyone who's looking to grow, like in middle of their career, and also last one is anyone who are in the current times struggling.
Mm. Well, I think up front, uh, in I think everyone has value. And, when I work with people, I like to build on their strengths and build on their values. And when you present yourself or when you go for it, I think it's good to be who you are, you know, be true to yourself. And, we all have weaknesses and we all have strengths. And I don't think hiding your weaknesses serves any great purpose. I think the true thing is to build on what you have and more or less, um, and I like going back to that centered, be yourself, be that person and show what you can do. And you know, grow your strengths and understand your weaknesses. And as you go along, you'll be able to hit a balance there. And um, you know, that transparency to of who you are, there may, maybe there's some fear in that, but uh, having let's say, presenting yourself and it not really be you, then your manager or the people who work with you also may not understand you or may have a false expectation of you. So, and this again goes, I guess, it can work across, no matter, you as a person, whatever your um, choices you've made or how your self identity, it's important that you're true to that.
That's a good word of advice in life as general, actually. Okay, any last word that you'd like to leave with us today, besides
Uh,
the wise words that you mentioned earlier?
you know, uh, we've talked in general, and I've enjoyed the session very much. And I guess the main thing when we talk about women or anyone who are men, the it's important to enjoy what you do, and it's important that you can look at what you're doing and feel self-worth in that, and and pride in what you do. And if that is somehow lacking, then then you need to evaluate and see
Mm,
what is preventing you from getting to that point. And I think that sometimes people who do have rough patches, or they do feel like they're not in the job they need to be, or that people don't take them seriously, need to take that moment to reevaluate sometimes, so that they and get whether they need some support to take the next steps or whether this is something they can do on their own. It's important that you always move forward and you do take those next steps.
Be true to yourself and
Yes,
self-reflection.
yes.
All right. Thank you for doing this, Pamela. It was a pleasure to have you here today. And I hope you enjoy your time as a Texan. And until we catch up again next time, Pamela, thank you.
Oh,
Have a good
thank
day.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.